Wars are no longer always fought with bullets. Sometimes they are fought with bond yields. A currency collapses. A banking system freezes. A nation wakes up to empty shelves and vanishing credit. No missiles were launched. No tanks crossed the border, and yet the damage feels indistinguishable from war. In the modern era, intelligence agencies learned a powerful lesson. Control the economy, and you can control the battlefield without ever firing a shot. The most decisive operations of the 20th and 21st centuries were not always covert raids or assassinations. They were credit restrictions, sanctions lists, commodity manipulation, and financial isolation. Economics became a weapon, and intelligence agencies became its operators.
The weaponization of economics did not begin in secret rooms. It began with blockades. During World War I and World War II, naval blockades aimed to starve enemies of food, fuel, and raw materials. Economic strangulation proved as destructive as artillery. Governments realized that supply chains were strategic assets. After 1945, the Cold War transformed this logic into doctrine. The global system was divided between two ideological blocs. Military confrontation risked nuclear annihilation, so competition shifted into finance, trade, and influence. Institutions like the International Monetary Fund and the World Bank were designed to stabilize economies, but economic leverage quickly became intertwined with geopolitical strategy. Intelligence agencies began studying not only troop movements, but currency reserves, export vulnerabilities, and debt exposure. The battlefield had expanded from land and sea to markets and money.
One early turning point came in post-war Europe. The Marshall Plan was publicly framed as Reconstruction aid. It was also a strategic tool to anchor Western Europe within a U.S.-led economic order. Intelligence services monitored political factions and economic stability closely, understanding that financial recovery would prevent communist expansion. In the 1950s and 60s, covert operations increasingly intersected with economic interests. In countries like Iran and Guatemala, political instability was tied to control over oil and agricultural exports. Declassified records show intelligence involvement where economic policy clashed with Western corporate or strategic interests. Another shift occurred in the 1970s and 1980s. Financial globalization created new vulnerabilities. Intelligence communities tracked capital flows, debt crises, and commodity shocks. The Latin American debt crisis was not just a financial event, it was a geopolitical stress test. Sanctions became more systematic in the late 20th century. Instead of broad embargoes, targeted financial measures evolved, restricting access to banking systems, freezing assets, and limiting trade in strategic goods. After the September 11th attacks, economic warfare entered a new phase. The fight against terrorism relied heavily on tracking financial networks. Intelligence agencies worked with financial institutions to monitor transactions, freeze assets, and disrupt funding channels. The creation of sanctions regimes targeting Iran, North Korea, and later Russia revealed how deeply integrated finance had become with national security. Access to dollar clearing systems, global banks, and payment networks could determine a nation's economic survival. The SWIFT banking system, essential for cross-border transactions, became a strategic pressure point. Exclusion from it was not symbolic, it was systemic isolation.
What makes economic weaponization so powerful is its invisibility. Unlike military force, financial pressure operates through institutions that appear neutral: banks, clearinghouses, regulatory bodies, and reserve currencies. Modern economies depend on interconnected networks: energy supply chains, capital markets, trade finance, and payment systems. Disrupt one node, and the shock reverberates globally. Intelligence agencies map these dependencies meticulously. They analyze which commodities a country imports, how much foreign currency it holds, where its debt is denominated, and which financial intermediaries it relies on. Sanctions are rarely blunt instruments today. They are calibrated, target specific banks, restrict specific technologies, freeze specific individuals' assets. The aim is precision, maximize pressure while minimizing collateral damage. Yet economic warfare carries risks. Because systems are interconnected, sanctions can ripple back to those who impose them. Energy prices surge, supply chains fracture, financial markets react unpredictably. The more integrated the global economy becomes, the more leverage states possess, but also the more vulnerable they are to unintended consequences. This is the paradox. Economic interdependence creates both stability and strategic weaponry.
Today, economic statecraft sits at the center of geopolitical conflict. Sanctions regimes have expanded dramatically over the past 2 decades. Trade restrictions target semiconductors, rare earth minerals, advanced technologies, and energy exports. Central banks freeze foreign reserves. Governments impose export controls. Intelligence agencies monitor compliance and track evasion networks. The war in Ukraine highlighted this dynamic vividly. Western governments coordinated sweeping financial sanctions, froze central bank assets, and restricted access to global capital markets. The goal was clear: weaken economic capacity to constrain military capability. Meanwhile, nations targeted by sanctions seek alternatives, developing parallel payment systems, increasing trade in local currencies, and diversifying reserves. The global financial system itself has become a terrain of strategic competition. This is no longer covert in the traditional sense. It is systemic. Economic tools are now primary instruments of foreign policy.
Intelligence agencies did not invent economic warfare, but they perfected it for an age where money moves faster than missiles. The weaponization of economics reveals a profound truth about modern power. Control of financial infrastructure can rival control of territory. But this strategy carries consequences. Each sanction, each restriction, each frozen asset nudges the global system toward fragmentation. If too many actors lose trust in shared financial networks, they will build alternatives, and a fragmented system may prove less stable than an integrated one. The line between defense and escalation grows thinner when economic pressure replaces open conflict. In the end, economics is both a weapon and a lifeline. It sustains global prosperity and can destabilize it. The question is not whether economics will continue to be weaponized. It already is. The real question is whether the system can withstand the strain of being both battlefield and marketplace at the same time.